It brought around in Tulsi.
What's my mind too?
Yeah, that would be like.
Hare Krishna. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to daily Srimad Bhagavatam class. As our ever attempt to get better, one thing announcement, when you hold the microphone, hold it like this, because the receiver is down here, and that's what makes it get fuzzy, and I guess online it really does. So, new lesson for the day, hold it up here. Okay. Again, everybody, welcome to sit at the tables if you'd like. I need, can you grab me cartels? Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Thank you, Prabhu. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradari. Jaya Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradari. Yashoda Nandana Brajajana Ranjana. Yashoda Nandana Brajajana Ranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradari. Jaya Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradari. Yashoda Nandana Brajajana Ranjana. Yashoda Nandana Brajajana Ranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna. Shri Shri Radha Madhava ki jai, Shri the Prabhupada ki jai. Jose, underneath my bag right there is my little folder. If you would get that for me, I'd really appreciate it. Thank you. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. If we can please repeat or say the invocations together, both Sanskrit and translation, please. Narayanam namaskritya naram chaiva narottamam devyam sarasvatim visyam tato jaya yudirayat. Before reciting this Srimad Bhagavatam, which are the very means of conquest, one should offer respectful obeisances unto the personality of Godhead Narayan, unto Narayan Rishi, the supermost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and to Sri Vyasadeva, the author. Nashta prayasha abreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya bhagavati utamasloke bhaktir bhavati naistaki. By regular attendance in the class on Bhagavatam and by rendering of service to the pure devotee, all that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed, and the loving service unto the personality of Godhead, who is praised with transcendental songs, is established as an irrevocable fact. Om Gantimarandasya Gananjana Salakaya Chakshuran Militiyam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. I was born in the darkness of ignorance, and my spiritual master opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer respectful obeisances unto him. So we're starting in Canto 3, chapter 4, or excuse me, chapter 14. And this chapter is entitled Pregnancy of Deity in the Evening. And before we get started, we'll read, so we'll do text 1 through 15, and we'll be focusing on text 12 today. Before I start, I wanted to mention a few things about just Bhagavatam in general. In this world, you'll see so many opportunities to hear stories through either literature or through movies or radio or something. And often you'll hear in these literatures, in these stories, so many different things. Murder, robbery, the love story, the sexual scandal, this scandal, that scandal, so many scandals. And we spend, in America alone, we're spending trillions of dollars on these things, attracting people to these stories. Oh my gosh, these mundane things meant for material sense gratification, yes. But then you start reading Srimad Bhagavatam, and you start reading about murder, sexual scandals, people robbing people, people manipulating people. And you think, wait a minute, I could go to the cinema and hear about these kinds of stories, right? So what's the difference? What is the purpose of Srimad Bhagavatam in all these stories? Or what's the purpose of story in our culture? Well, the different stories are meant to portray feelings, right? The reason for a movie or a song is the hopes of you catching some kind of emotional response. This is the catch. Well, Srimad Bhagavatam, the stories that we're reading in Srimad Bhagavatam are also there to catch us, to give us emotion, bhava, right? But also there to teach us our character. So the stories of Srimad Bhagavatam, when we hear about these scandals, we hear about murder, we hear about so many different things that we can see or hear in the mundane world. But the thing is that Srimad Bhagavatam are connected to Krishna. That these are about the devotees of the Lord. And so they are playing these beautiful plays, these beautiful stories, so that we, the conditioned soul, can understand how to love Krishna properly. Every psychological situation we can come upon is in Srimad Bhagavatam. So when we read Srimad Bhagavatam thoroughly, then we can start to understand and see Srimad Bhagavatam in our life. We can see that, oh, this scandal or this person or this, and we can see how to adapt to it in a way to serve Krishna. Some people say, I was thinking, some people, the way we do the Balaram Prabhu was saying the Krishna House method, right? This wide range of verses and then focusing on one. And some people say, well, I'm not going deep enough into Srimad Bhagavatam. Some people say like that. Some people that have been around, they want to go deeper. They want to hear every purport. And so my encouragement in that way is, yes, dive deeper into Srimad Bhagavatam. But that doesn't mean that you can't get value out of this. Matter of fact, we're encouraged, right, to read an hour a day. You'll often hear this. And read Srila Prabhupada's books. So an encouragement is on your own time, read deeper the verses that are being spoken about in the morning class. Read over Srila Prabhupada's purports. Read them deeper. And you'll see that Srimad Bhagavatam, like I was speaking, really starts to come alive even more. One thing, if you can do it, if in the morning, early morning, if you can read for 45 minutes or an hour what's going to be read in the day, that's amazing. Because then not only are you thinking about if I was doing this class, if I was teaching it, I might think like this, I might talk about this. And then you hear the speaker and you say, oh, I didn't think about that point. Oh, that's a good point. Or oh, I was thinking of that point. And then when there's times for comments or questions, you can also bring up the things that you thought about. Or you can do it later in the day, but the point is that the deeper you go into Srimad Bhagavatam, the more you'll see that these aren't just normal stories of scandals, of things that you could possibly watch in the material world. They're real stories that are affecting our character and affecting our relationship with the Supreme Lord. So I wanted to mention that because we're getting into some stories that just go, wow. This is crazy. This is like, these are, you couldn't make this up kind of stories. But this is the perspective, the attitude we should have in these stories in Srimad Bhagavatam, that we're hearing from these great devotees who are so kind to portray these stories to us so that we can come closer to Krishna, so that we can go in our daily life and live a life of Srimad Bhagavatam. Our culture is actually Srimad Bhagavatam culture. People say Vedic culture in there. I would argue that actually we're not so much about Vedic culture as more about Srimad Bhagavatam culture. We have the Srimad Bhagavatam. If you go deeper, you can go into Chaitanya Charitamrita, which even goes deeper on how to do Srimad Bhagavatam culture. Okay, before Drista falls asleep, let's go to text 1. Read a couple, please everybody read 2 verses each, 3 verses. We'll go to 15.
Sukadev Goswami said, after hearing from the great sage Maitreya about the Lord's incarnation as Varaha, Vidura, who had taken a vow, begged him with folded hands to please narrate further transcendental activities of the Lord, since he, Vidura, didn't yet feel satisfied. Sri Vidura said, O chief amongst the great sages, I have heard by disciplic succession that Hiranyakash, The original demon was slain by the same form of sacrifices the personality of Godhead, Lord bore.
So we're going to hear about the story of Hinraksha, the original demon. And so I found it beneficial to explain the theme of the class so that when we read through it, we can kind of keep track of the theme. And so today's theme is the purpose of sex and marriage is to get children and deliver them back to home, back to Godhead. So we're going to learn what that means in our life and how we can do that properly so that we can have nice Krishna-conscious children. But then we're going to hear also how not to do it. Text 3, please.
What was the reason, O Brahmana, for the fight between the demon king and the Lord bore while the Lord was lifting the earth as his pastime?
My mind has become very inquisitive, and therefore I am not satisfied with hearing the narration of the Lord's appearance. Please therefore speak more and more to a devotee who is faithful.
When I first read this morning, I was thinking, this is interesting that Vidura is saying, I'm not satisfied. Because often we say that by hearing Krishna consciousness, we're not satisfied. But this is the interesting thing about a devotee. They become satisfied, and then they soon after become unsatisfied because they want to hear more. Similarly, like, right, we're talking about the materialist who is never satisfied by material nature, but they're doing it in the wrong way because it's never, ever going to give them any satisfaction. It's like licking the jar of a honey. Oh, you lick the jar and you think you're tasting, the sweetness. But no, the honey is in the jar. So similarly, the devotee is also looking for that satisfaction, and that satisfaction comes, and then Krishna so kindly is enticing us to grow more, to hear more. Go ahead, please.
The great sage Maitreya said, O warrior, the inquiry made by you is just befitting a devotee because it concerns the incarnation of the personality of Godhead. He is the source of liberation from the chain of birth and death for all those who are otherwise destined to die. Text 6. By hearing these topics from the sage Narada, the son of King Uttanapada, Dhruva was enlightened regarding the personality of Godhead, and he ascended to the abode of the Lord, placing his feet over the head of death.
This is so the interesting about Dhruva is that when he goes to the spiritual world, death is there to greet him, and so instead of meeting with death, he just steps on death's head to actually just go to the spiritual world. So this is that what it's speaking about. So he just uses him as a stepping stone. Like, never mind you. I'm going back home. Thank you, though. I appreciate the help. Text 7, please.
This history of the fight between the Lord as a boar and the demon Hiranyaksha was heard by me in a year long ago, as it was described by the foremost of the demigods, Brahma, when he was questioned by the other demigods. Diti, daughter of Daksha, being afflicted with sex desire, begged her husband Kashyapa, the son of Marichi, to have intercourse with her in the evening in order to beget a child. The sun was setting, and the sage was sitting in trance after offering oblations to the Supreme Personality of Godhead Vishnu, whose tongue is the sacrificial fire.
So it's mentioned in text 9, the evening, and also the title of the chapter is Pregnancy of Diti in the Evening. It has some significance, which we'll talk about later.
In that place, the beautiful Diti expressed her desire. O learned one, Cupid is taking his arrows and distressing me forcibly, as a mad elephant troubles a banana tree. Therefore, you should be kind towards me by showing me complete mercy. I desire to have sons, and I am much distressed by seeing the opulence of my co-wives. By performing this act, you will become happy. A woman is honored in the world by the benediction of her husband, and a husband like you will become famous by having children because you are meant for the expansion of living entities.
So in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna talks about the senses, right? And they're like venomous serpents, right? And the devotee must be like a snake charmer, right? Or the examples giving of the tortoise, right? The tortoise must, when it's favorable to Krishna consciousness, they bring out their senses, and when it's not favorable to Krishna consciousness, they bring in the senses. Jose's got a nice smile. It's nice when we can connect things with what we're learning, right? The interesting thing about Krishna consciousness is that the better more attentive our chanting and our relationship with Krishna comes, is that the mind, as Krishna says, can be the best of friends or the worst of enemies. But as devotees, we start to understand the separation that we're not the mind. And then through our Krishna consciousness, the mind might asks the sense of the mind as a sense might be asking something from us, right? Do this, do that, do this. But through Krishna consciousness, the gap that we hear from the mind and then decide what to do becomes larger, and we can use our intelligence. We get to be able to use our intelligence more clearly in that gap. So the mind, for instance, the mind says, that person is not doing, doing something that offends me. And the mind says, yell at them. Okay, the mind might say that, but a Krishna consciousness person, through their meditation, through their Krishna consciousness, the gap between the mind saying it and the action becomes longer. And then they can use, because of the purification of the intelligence, they can intelligently decide, is that the right thing to do? Is that going to be beneficial to Krishna? Is it going to be beneficial for my Krishna consciousness? And they make a decision based on that. So then they can decide, am I going to extend my senses or am I going to hold them back? They become like a snake charmer. Very interesting. Okay, go ahead, please.
Text 13. In days long ago, our father, the most opulent Daksha, who was affectionate to his daughters, asked each of us separately whom we would prefer to select as our husband.
Our well-wishing father Daksha, after knowing our intention, handed over 13 of his daughters unto you, and since then we have all been faithful.
Just a little, please.
Text 15. O lotus-eyed one, kindly bless me by fulfilling my desire. When someone in distress approaches a great person, his pleas should never go in vain.
Text 12, please. Okay. Sorry, give me 1 second. I'm trying to find it here. So, hey, Hare Krishna. Okay. Bharatri aptoru mananam. Bharatari aptoru mananam. Lokan avyasate yasyaha. Lokan avisate yasyaha. Patir bhavad vido yasam. Patir bhavad vido yasam. Prajaya manu jayate. Prajaya nanu jayate. Bharatari aptoru mananam. Lokan avyasate asyaha. Patir bhavad vido yasyam. Prajaya Manu Jayate. Please chant. Apturmananam Lokana visite yasaha Patir bhavad vido yasam Prajaya nanujayate Bhartyar aptorumananam Lokana visyate yasya Patir bhavo vidosam Lokana visyate yasya Vido yasam Prajaya no jayate. Okay, if we could read the synonyms together. The Sanskrit and translation together. There we go. Bhartari, by the husband. Apta urvan mananam, of those who are beloved. Lokan, in the world. Avisyate, spreads. Yasya, fame. Pati, husband. Bhavat vidya, like your goal self. Yasyam, for those who. Prajaya, by children. Nanu, certainly. Jayate, expands. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. A woman is honored in the world by the benediction of her husband, and a husband like you will become famous by having children because you are meant for the expansion of living entities. Purport, according to Rishabhadev, one should not become a father or mother unless one is confident that he can beget children who he can deliver from the clutches of birth and death. Human life is the only opportunity to get out of the material scene, which is full of miseries of birth, death, old age, and disease. Every human being should be given the opportunity to take advantage of his human form of life, and a father like Kaspya is supposed to beget good children for the purpose of liberation. So Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita that I am sex life which is not contrary to religious purposes, right? So you'll find I find it very interesting because even in the mundane, in the material world, people are so interested in pedigree. People will breed dogs, they'll breed horses, right, with a pedigree to get this beget very nice children, animal children. So that they can win champions or they can win dog shows or these and stuff. So in Krishna consciousness, we're not so interested in winning championships of races or showing off our children in beauty pageants. Although that's not such a bad thing or nothing like that. But the point is to have nice children in a way that will produce children that we can help do service to Krishna by giving them the best chance to go back home, back to Godhead. So, at birth or at conception, there's certain things that a wife and husband can do to greatly increase their chance that their children will be devotees of Krishna. So it was mentioned earlier that it talks about, earlier in one of the verses it says that, forgot her name, Daksha's the husband, and Diti. Kashyap is the husband, Diti's the wife. So the wife, Diti, is asking to have relationships with her husband in the evening. And then the title is Pregnancy of Deity in the Evening. Well, the three modes of material nature are very strong in this material world, and they're acting in different ways at different times. So in the evening, the mode of ignorance is very prevalent, right? And during the day, the mode of passion is very relevant. And the mode of goodness is being seen in the morning. This is why we really encouraging doing our sadhana, our spiritual practice early in the morning, because it's the best time that the mind is settled, that our body is settled, and we can really get our meditation, our focus on the proper in a line for our goal of life of serving Krishna. So similarly, that when we are ready for children, when somebody's come up to the age that they are thinking about grihastha life and children, it's actually said that Srila Prabhupada said that 25 is the age that the man should be, if they're desiring to have children, shouldn't be younger than 25. That when they beget children, they should understand that these laws of nature are there. But it's more than just the laws of nature. It's when is it auspicious that we can have children that will become, attract, how should I say it? It will attract the soul into the body that is best fit to live a life of devotion, right? So I thought this was very interesting because at the time of death, our consciousness determines our next body, right? So we understand that at the time of death, we want to be thinking about Krishna, and this will take us to the spiritual world. And if we're thinking of some other thing, that it's our next body will be determined by this. Well, actually, the consciousness of both the parents is also and similarly attracting the body or the soul which is going to enter the child. So our consciousness is important about how when we have a child, who we're bringing into this world. So there's what we call samskaras in the Vedic tradition, in Bhagavatam culture, and one is that is the begetting of children. So we should, some of the things are like we shouldn't do it on fasting days. We shouldn't have children on fasting days. We shouldn't, there's certain days of the week that aren't auspicious, that shouldn't be used to have children. And then there are certain times and certain places, times and certain days that it is very auspicious. And so sometimes you'll see devotees, they'll inquire from an astrologer, what's an auspicious time that for children. It's also said that I haven't found it, Srila Prabhupada actually say this. I'm not saying he did say this, but one thing that's been talked about so often when I hear about this is that it's requested that the husband and the wife both chant 50 rounds before conceiving. And this really puts them in a consciousness that this service is for Krishna and that we're going to beget a children for Krishna consciousness means. So you can really see that the devotee is thinking about every aspect of their life as how to serve Krishna. Even there's said that sex life is the most pleasurable thing in this world, And so the devotee doesn't say, so many times we've talked about that the devotee doesn't say, we can't please the senses, but we must please the senses in Krishna consciousness. We can eat, but let's eat things that help us in our Krishna consciousness. Let's sleep, but let's sleep in a way that best helps our Krishna consciousness. Okay, sex life is there, but let's use it for begetting children that we can help in their life go home back to Godhead. So now once we've had those children, we can do things like read Bhagavatam to them. Actually, it's said that in the womb of the mother, that the child is very conscious of what's going on. So when the mother's going to things like Kirtan or reading Srimad Bhagavatam or reading Krishna books, the child is actually hearing it too. And so this is very, very nice for raising our children in Krishna consciousness. I grew up I lived in Boise for some time. And in Boise there's two devotees named Radhika Raman and Gopal Hari. They're pretty famous in ISKCON. Very, very well known. And Radhika Raman graduated from Oxford with his PhD at 21. And Gopal Hari, same thing. I'm not sure exactly the time. But their mother, when they were young, would read them Srimad Bhagavatam. This is what we're reading now. However, instead of telling them what it meant, she would encourage them to read something until she would ask them, what does it mean? What do you think this means? What is going on here? And so this allowed them to start to develop their critical thinking skills, their logic, through Krishna consciousness. It wasn't so important if they were right or wrong, but the point is they were starting to become conscious of Krishna consciousness and the philosophy and the understanding. So this is a way that we can help, not only conceive children that are ready to be Krishna consciousness, but then, in our teaching them to help them become Krishna conscious. Also, we can take them to TKG, right? We have a school here. There's Sunday school. But most of all, what's important when we're teaching our children how to go back home, back to Godhead, is by our example. It's really hard to teach anybody if by example we're not following also. So if we're being attentive with our rounds and we're chanting nicely, then of course the people that are around us are also benefiting from this by learning from us by our example. So, in Krishna consciousness, there's a time in our life where we're brahmacharis and we're educating ourselves. We're trying to develop a real foundation of our Krishna consciousness that's going to take us through the rest of our life. And so the students of Krishna House, but just in general, our culture is to really teach children how to understand books like Srimad Bhagavatam, to understand Krishna consciousness philosophy, so that they are given the best opportunity to live a life that's pious. What we read yesterday, that not only is this practice of devotional service give the highest goal of life of Krishna consciousness and devotion to Krishna, but also that one's life becomes peaceful. What was the word used? It starts with a C, I believe. Their life becomes, peaceful. So we can live, yes. So my point is that in the brahmachari life, 99.9% of people are going to have grihastha life. So it's really important to understand things like this. Sometimes we might stick our heads up our noses up in the air. Oh, grihastha life or having children. Some people might be like, that's way down the line. But the point is to educate yourself now and understand that someday you will be in that situation. And how can you form your life in a way that can best benefit your life in Krishna consciousness, and your wife's life or your husband's life in Krishna consciousness, and your children's life in Krishna consciousness. Or you might find yourself in certain situations where you're having children like Hiranyakashipu, a demon, because you couldn't control your senses, because you didn't understand how that this activity is to be used in Krishna's service, right? You may have had experiences with friends that had children at an age where they weren't ready for it, or in a situation where they were totally not prepared to have children. And you can see the devastation or the disruption of their lives. It's very tough. So, religious principles aren't here to make us say, don't do this, and to make life hard. They're actually principles of freedom, that we are going to have children, that we are going to work, we are going to do so many things, but we can do them in a way that's pious or in accordance to religious principles, so that we can live a life of peace and doing our duty and ultimately serving Krishna in a nice way. Hare Krishna. Anybody have any questions, comments, thoughts? It's a pretty heavy part of the Bhagavatam, but so important. It's really, really important to understand these things. Lisette.
Good to see everybody again.
Nice to see you. Welcome.
Thank you. So, what would someone do if they already have had a child
Mm.
and it wasn't in the right preparation?
Well, the devotees in situations is always thinking that Krishna is my best friend and he will surely help me. And so we might have done things that have really bind us to this material world, not just with children of a sense, in a sense of that we haven't done this, but also we may have gotten to professions that aren't so conducive to our nature, or we might be in so many distressful situations that aren't conducive to our Krishna consciousness. But through the process of Krishna consciousness, of our sadhana, chanting Hare Krishna, gaining that friendship of Krishna, he starts to teach us how to become unentangled. He starts to untangle us. And so then we start using everything as a benefit. So the devotee isn't looking at this situation like, oh, this is terrible, what can I do? There's no answer. No, they're looking about, okay, this is the situation I'm in. What can I do to use it in Krishna's service? How can I use it to uplift myself in Krishna's service? So we do that through people that have walked this path before us, that are more advanced with us. We can start to ask them questions. I'm in this situation, help me. And we start to inquire about how best to deal with the situation. And we can see that Krishna is helping us. You know, I grew up not in Krishna, not in this process. I was 24 when I came here. And anyways, not to brag, just kidding, it's not bragging, but I did so many things that were ridiculous and stuff. And I could see that because of my past activity, as I was very entangled, but then I want to say before, Nanda-braja is so puffed up thinking he's not entangled. No, I'm still entangled now, but I'm very less entangled. But through the process, I could see that Krishna was helping me to untangle from my past karma, my past activities, and using them as a teaching moment to understand, yes, Krishna consciousness is the thing that I want to do. My relationship with Krishna is the most important thing, and that I need to be determined, be enthusiastic in it. And so, anyways, over time, I untangled. I've become able to use a profession, get a profession that's more in line with my nature, and I'm always learning lessons every day. So, yes, we are in situations that can be tough, but through reading scriptures, by associating with other people, and by inquiring from them how to best go about, we can start to breathe a little bit easier. Life becomes more peaceful, and we become more determined and enthusiastic in Krishna consciousness. Is that okay? Yeah. Thank you. Priya, Prabhupada Priya, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Yeah, I was just kind of imagining or kind of visualizing the scene where, it's described that when the soul leaves the body, if the soul is not, it is needing to take birth again in the material world to continue the rectification process, then it's usually described that there's like a 6-month interim period between leaving the dead body and going into the womb of a new mother. So I was just imagining that there's like a kind of like a waiting room there for souls, and then account is taken of their consciousness at the time of death, their karma and all that, and then just waiting, and then they're keeping an eye on okay, who's down there having sex to conceive children, and so then there's a couple that's like, right, we really want to have a devotee child. We chanted our 50 rounds. We're praying to Krishna for a ray of Vishnu. And then there's one soul that, was kind of a devotee in the past life, didn't quite make it. And so someone's like, all right over there, gate number 10. and then there's another soul that's waiting there that was just totally mode of ignorance, was just like an atheist and committed all kinds of nefarious activities. And then there's a couple having sex and they're drunk and they're ignorant and they're just really out of it. And they're like, all right, that's good for you. You go over there. And then the soul just enters the semen and gets shot into the womb, and there you have it.
Right? Srimad Bhagavatam puts these things right into our face. If we're not sober, we might be, these, like sex life, oh my gosh, and stuff like that. But Bhagavatam really puts us right in our face, like that this is actually a practical thing of life, and it can be used in Krishna consciousness. And so if we sit back, be sober, and say, oh, this is very logical. Okay, I can see that my consciousness, so often in this world we're talking about, you'll hear this philosophy of where our consciousness or our attitude or our energy is attracting things. If you want $1 million, hang around with people who are billionaires and start meditating and thinking about that, and the universe, you will attract money. Okay, yes, that principle's in Vedic understanding. It's karma, right? Yes. But okay, what is our attitude and how we're going to conceive children, or just these practical things in life? And it makes us very much, oh, this is a scientific process. Oh, it's not so comfortable to talk maybe about these subjects sometimes, but they're very real and very practical in our life, and there to help us to live a life in Krishna consciousness as best possible. Yes, Krishna wants us to be peaceful in this world. He wants us to be happy. So he's going to give us ways that we can be Krishna consciousness and have, be self-satisfied, be content. There we go, content in our situation. So then we have a ray of Vishnu come down, and or we can have, the mutt. I was talking about earlier about people with pedigrees of dogs and stuff. You have a mutt. Right? Any other comments, thoughts? Jose. Oh, you
I
have.
was just thinking, like, in America, we talk a lot about family planning. But, like colleges, universities, like at UF, they would have this table and it would say family planning. And you go there and it's not about family planning. It's about how to, like, not have a family. It's all about birth control. So actually family planning is this, like family planning is like, okay, how can we have a good child? How can we attract, a pious, elevated soul, to take birth in our family so that we can have a peaceful life and, help that soul to attain liberation, go back to Godhead. So that's the real planning, let's be proactive and plan for this so that we can get the desired result.
I was thinking,
the family planning, the way they usually think is it's a misnomer. It's family stopping.
Yeah. I was thinking about, sometimes we use this example of people saying, oh, you guys don't eat meat, you don't drink, you don't take intoxications, you don't gamble, and you don't have illicit sex. What is there left to do? But the people that are doing those are giving themselves so much trouble. For instance, you get drunk, you have illicit sex, and then you have a baby, and now you're not prepared, you're not ready, you've got a child that's that's a terror, and now you're living a life going, what the hell did I get myself into? Who's living in freedom more? The person who's reading about, oh, these are the activities I can do to live the most peaceful life, or the person that's, struggling through so many different things? And it's not that we're putting, condemning people or judging them and stuff. It's actually out of compassion that we're saying, hey, please think about this and consider this. And then, once you've considered it and believe it, practice it, because you're going to start moving toward a life, you're going to have a life that's much more peaceful, much more freedom than what you think is there in those four things of that happiness. It's a good point. Jose.
I don't have my phone right now, but I forgot the names of so DT and
Kasyapa.
Kashyapa. Oh yeah, kind of. Okay, and my question will be like, were they devotees or were they just like?
Yeah. Yes. Kasyapa is matter of fact, he's meditating. He's sitting there meditating, and he tells her, "Not right now. I'm meditating, and this isn't the right time." I think it goes in more somewhere. It doesn't. I think either in the rest of the chapter he goes more into it, or somewhere else. I can't remember where he preaches to her. Or it's after Hiranyaksha is beget, they start to preach about why it wasn't. Is that correct?
He's not like a pure devotee. He's kind of mixed devotion.
Okay.
The Bible talks about that, and that's why
He couldn't, or her?
both of them.
Oh.
Him, and at the end, like
Mm. 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 Interesting. So do you hear that? So he wasn't. They're religious in quite a bit of means, but they weren't a pure devotee.
Yeah. Other thing is that this happens. I've seen it like a couple times that it's like a family. They have 4 children, and out of those 4, 2 are like very good and pious, and the other 2 are like a horror or something like that.
Yes.
So
Yes.
it's like the seeing how the state of consciousness of the parents had a lot to do in that process.
Mm. This is a really good point, because somebody might say, "Oh, you guys are in Krishna consciousness, and then you have children, and some of them don't follow this process." Karma is very, these rules and laws are very deep and stuff, and so sometimes we can't understand them. However, we can understand about how to give ourselves the best opportunity to have children that we can that can come into our lives, that we can teach Krishna consciousness. And it's just like preaching in a way. We really understand that that's what our life is about preaching. How do we preach? By example, and by trying to teach others that, what is best for their Krishna consciousness. But they also have the opportunity not to, they have the freedom of choice. You'll meet so many people that go, "I know this is the right thing to do. I know this is the truth, but you know what? I'm just not ready for it." So Krishna's given them the intelligence to understand that, yes, this is where it's at. But their freedom of choice goes, "You know what? I'm just not ready." But Krishna's so kind, even in their life, they might go and have to experience some more turbulent situations where they finally go, "Okay, that was the last time." that was the knock on the head that made me say, "You know what? I'm gonna, I won't ride my bike without a helmet anymore." I get the point here. So that's also in the life of the devotee too. Some of us have some attachment still, that we're trying to become pure, and we might have some attachment still, and we might need a little knock on the head to remember that this isn't the place for us. So, Krishna might be so kind that he gives us that child that pushes us in so many ways to really pray to him and become even more Krishna conscious. Yeah? Is that okay? Any other questions, comments? It's time? Okay. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Gaura Pramanande, Hari Hari Bo, Vanchikal Patarubhyascha, Kripa Sindhubhyevacha, Patitanam Panebhyo, Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Antikoti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai. Sunday because we on Thursday.